Okay, maybe before we sort of head off for lunch, the one other thing I will do is just give you an example of this in practice. I don't think there's really time for much more, and I don't have the exercises prepared anyway. Let me share with you one little thing that I did myself along these lines last year. So if you bear with me, I'll write it up on the board. This is there are several of these, but this is the shortest, so therefore most convenient for this occasion. This is inspired by a little picture in the Kentucky Art Museum. Of course, as many of you know, we've been discussing it. There's a Latin-speaking conference that takes place at Lexington, Kentucky, and I was there writing poems last year as well as this year. And last year in the little art museum there, which I think is a lot less grand than the art museum we're going to go to this afternoon, nevertheless, there are some nice little pictures in Kentucky. One of them is a picture of a fairly sort of serious and pompous-looking couple. I mean, sort of young to middle-aged people. It's by an anonymous 17th century Spanish artist, so a serious-looking man, serious-looking woman. I mean, a nice picture of a married couple. But in the corner of the picture, there's a little dog staring straight at us, the viewer. The people are looking at each other, but the dog is looking at us. And I thought that was a rather nice detail of the picture that might provide some inspiration for a poem. So obviously you don't have to be looking for this sort of detail when you're looking at pictures this afternoon, but this is what struck me as being quite amusing, and therefore the sort of thing one could make a poem about. So the poem is called Canis the dog, Canis astutus, the clever little dog in the corner, Canis astutus in angulo. And it's an elegiac couplet, I think. Yep. And of course, we're going to go on in a day or two to look at elegiacs, but obviously, as I'm sure you all know, an elegiac is simply the hexameters that we're already dealing with, plus a pentameter, which of course scans differently. And it goes like this. First line, before this is era gestibus, he homines, these people with gestures. Arcana loquuntur ineptis. So these people with inept gestures are speaking secret things, in other words. From the dog's point of view, all this human conversation is pretty silly, but they're sort of having their private conversation. And the second line, parvulus ad dextram, scit benecuncta canis. Parvulus canis, the little dog, ad dextram, on the right-hand side. Scit benecuncta, knows everything very well. In other words, the dog is just looking at us and thinking its thoughts and is very aware of all the secrets. But we just have to imagine, as viewers of the picture, what the secrets are. So, from the technical point of view, how this scans parvulus ad dextram. The first half of a pentameter is the same, of course, as the 2.5 feet at the beginning of a hexameter. And the second half of the pentameter is 2.5 feet, again repeated, which has to be dactyls. Bene cuncta can. Is. Notice that these are incomplete feet. So the fifth foot of the pentameter is divided into two halves, which don't meet. So it's 2.5, 2 full feet plus a half, and then the half again at the end, and they've got to be dactyls. I think that works okay, that end of the pentameter. We're striving for a two-syllable word at the end, so canis, dog, works quite well there. Cuncta, cunctus, meaning everything, is a pretty useful word actually, and a neuter plural is providing us with that A. Skit bene knows well, that seemed to work in that position. Anyway, I don't think it's the greatest couplet I've ever done, but I think it isn't so bad maybe in expressing what the picture's about. Peter?
Explain why he and hominates, there's no elision there.
Ah, oh dear, that's an autumn, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, well spotted. That is naughty, yes. Eek. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that really was naughty, yes, well spotted. Any other mistakes in it? Yeah, well, that's nice of you to say so, yes.
The in Keptes, shouldn't that be long?
Oh, it's, no, it's ineptis rather than inceptis, yeah. If it was inceptis with a C there, yes, it would be, but yes. This is ineptis, meaning inept, stupid. Okay, well, that's the sort of thing that we might be aiming at for this afternoon. I mean, this is what I would call the sort of the comic, frivolous, mildly amusing sort of poem. Obviously, you could possibly get inspiration for very serious things from the museum too, but a little thing about a picture that seems a bit quirky or a little bit interesting in some way. Maybe that's the sort of thing we might be thinking about. And thank you for spotting the mistake. Perhaps a final thing, I mean, I think there isn't time for any more exercising before lunch. So the final thing I might suggest to you is something that I don't necessarily do in full, but sometimes I think is worth doing a little bit of, is just seeing the various alternatives that are used by ancient poets for the sort of points of difficulty we might have. In other words, very often we're looking for something that ends in a short. If the dactyl in the fifth foot is our sort of main challenge, then how do we get there? And you might like to sort of take a note of sort of words which are short and ends in a vowel, and short and ends in a consonant, because both of those are going to be pretty useful. And you might also, and so those are for use in the fifth foot and elsewhere, obviously, but particularly useful in the fifth foot. And similarly, for use in the sixth foot, you might try and look for words which start with a vowel and have, well, three-syllable words starting with a vowel of that nature, so short, long, and last one never matters, and also two-syllable words starting with a vowel. And for what sort of words is this going to work with? I mean, in terms of their endings, you get short vowels from feminine and neuter, both feminine and neuter short A's. You get them from third declension words ending in a short E. You get it from the magic word que. And most of the time, that really is about it. I mean, I'm sure there are other things you can think of that that end conveniently like that, but the majority of them do fall into these categories. And what I suggest you might do is just take a page or two of Virgil and see what is he actually doing at the ends of his lines. Where are these short syllables coming from? How many of them are actually words ending in a vowel, and how many of them are words ending in a consonant? When they're ending in a vowel, what are they? And most often they are going to fall into those categories. And when they're ending in a consonant, again, what are they? They are, as often as not, they are verbs in it, at, et, etc. Or they are nouns in us,